Hey, welcome to another episode of the Open Mic Podcast. Today, I'm very excited. I'm having my youngest guest on the podcast to date, Caroline. She is a 3-year singer. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, and I know I just called you a 3-year singer. That's not quite exactly true. You've been singing your whole life, but you've recently come out with your new single, I Know Better, which I definitely want to get into. But if we could sort of first start off by talking a little bit about what got you into music, because I'm under the impression that you've been doing this sort of stuff throughout your entire life.
Yeah, I always loved singing and just covers and music. And then I really got into it through like church choirs, and I sang in every choir possible like my whole life. And then I really wanted to start writing music, and then I started writing music when I was about 12, and then I just started putting it out.
Fantastic. And you started putting it out online. I know that you had a couple of, I would call them, big hit videos with your covers of like Wrecking Ball and Lady Gaga's Shallow. That collected several million views. I think 10 million views or so, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your initial reaction when that happens? I mean, you couldn't have possibly expected to have a video do that well. I know I would have never done that.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think it was just because those were such like belting songs, maybe, which I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah. So then, I mean, you get that many people online liking you, and I would imagine that you, just like everybody else, finds the internet to be a pretty scary place to put your stuff on because no one is really going to be overly nice to you. They're way more honest online when you don't know them. So what's that sort of first video upload like? Where is it sort of like I'm worried that people are not going to be very nice to me?
The first video, I wasn't that nervous because I didn't think anybody was really ever going to see it. I kind of just thought it was going to be like people who followed me, which was nerve-wracking enough. But then when it got more attention, it was kind of weird and unexpected.
Yeah, for sure. So you get the first video up, and I don't know which one it was, but it got a significant number of views and likes, and I'm sure that it was all over all of your social media platforms.
Yeah.
At what point were you like, holy cannoli, I could do this for a living?
Probably like 3 months in.
Okay, very cool. And talk to me a little bit about what the difference is between sort of the professional career and just singing in different church choirs or in your shower.
The professional career is really different because you kind of have to like have your whole story and know who you are as an artist and like make sure you have something to say, and it's a lot more personal that way. And just like having to do even like the business side of it and deal with the people in the industry and contracts and collaborating and finding producers and co-writers.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure that that's sort of a lot of responsibility for a 17-year-old like yourself. I mean, you haven't even finished high school, but it can be a lot of responsibility for someone who's young like that, right?
For sure, yeah.
How, like, I'm sure you're using an agent or your parents or something to sort of help you out. What's that like?
I do most of it myself, but my mom does help.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Let's talk about your single, I Know Better. You wrote this song from personal experiences where you're just trying to sort of show that people in toxic relationships can do better than that, or that you don't need to have such a harmful relationship. Am I close?
Right, yeah, for sure.
Can you talk me through either what the storyline is about or even the experience that got you to create that song?
Yeah, the storyline is very being in a place where you kind of know you're not supposed to be in, maybe, and almost like going down the wrong path a little bit with the wrong type of people and just the wrong circumstance where people don't treat you that well, and realizing I don't really need to be here. It's not vital. I can get out of this.
Yeah, well, that's a really important thing for someone again at the sort of young adult teenage stage, where it's an important thing to realize that at some point you have your parents are in control of you, and then eventually you sort of become your own person. And I think that a lot of people around 17, 18, 19, 20 sort of have to live through these experiences. And so it's really interesting to me that you've written a song about that, because I think that I'm assuming that your general target audience is for other 17-year-old young adult girls, women. Do you have anything to sort of say to that, in terms of the importance of having a song that sort of promotes maybe not having to be in bad situations? Your life is sort of in your own hands.
Yeah, I think it's really important because especially at this age, you kind of get to the point where you start making your own decisions, and they're big decisions because they kind of affect the rest of your life, even though you are like 16, 17, 18. But it's really important because if you start those patterns young, it's just harder to break them, and at some point you're going to want to break them.
Sure. And I understand that this is your sort of debut song. Do you have any idea of how well it's been doing so far?
Yeah, it's been doing pretty well, which is great. So far, through all platforms, we have about 2 million streams, which is really exciting.
And I know that you said you grew up in sort of church choir music, so maybe that's how you got into music, but this song is very electro pop forward. How did you sort of get into that sort of dance type of music and want to make the song that sort of genre?
I've always loved dance music, and especially dance pop, and I loved EDM, like really deep EDM when I was in middle school, which is kind of weird. I don't know why I liked it so much, but I just loved it because it just has such good energy and such dance. And for this song, I really, especially for the debut, I wanted to do something that would work in that genre, and also to kind of mix both genres of a mainstream pop vibe and an electro pop vibe, so both audiences could kind of listen to the song and like it, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely very catchy. We'll listen to it in a little bit. Talk to me about working with Dan Brook. I know that he produced it and co-wrote the song. He's had a lot of fantastic people that he's worked aside, like Britney Spears, Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, Hilary Duff, Miley Cyrus even. Talk to me a little bit about A, how you met, and B, what it was like getting to work with him.
Yeah, it is really fun, and I've done a lot of songs with him now. I've probably done about 12 now, so that's really cool. And I met him through like an industry colleague, and I met him through another song because I had one song that I'd written that I wanted to reproduce, and then he heard the song and he liked it and wanted to reproduce that. And so we reproduced that song, which isn't I Know Better, it's another song. And then through that, we decided to write together, and then we wrote I Know Better. And writing with him was really easy, and he really has helped my songwriting a lot and kind of made it come to another level of getting more of like the pop element of it and just like the mathematics of songwriting.
Yeah, that sounds like super important. I mean, especially with someone who has such a resume of working with artists who have been super successful on the radio and in pop culture and music in general. That must be a real opportunity to get to sort of learn how to do things the best way possible.
Yeah, it's been a great learning experience for sure.
We swerved right out of control. I gave you every piece of me, my heart and soul. You pick at me when I'm weak, but now I'm out of love, head over feet. Where am I on the list of girls you've missed? You got this down, but it's over now. 'Cause I know better, 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 I know better.
So let's talk a little bit about social media. I understand that you call your fan base the Caroline Army. Talk to me a little bit about them.
Well, Caroline Army was really cool because it was a name they picked out, and so that was really cool. And I always liked that name anyway, so it worked out. And it's just nice to be able to use social media for a good thing and be able to connect with people and talk with people and build real relationships.
Yeah, what's that? I mean, building relationships with people online, it may be a little bit foreign to me, maybe because I'm nearing 30, but it just doesn't seem like something that I would do. I'm a very human to human communicator. Talk to me a little bit about what sort of things you're able to do on social media to still sort of get to be close with your fan base.
It's crazy. Somehow when you DM people and text them a lot, it feels like you know them, which is weird. I don't even know how that happens, but you really do feel like you know them. And then I also like to video chat with people, so that way it is more human to human. And then even Instagram Live is like such a good tool. Even like on Saturday, I did a 7-hour live stream, and I just went live with as many people as I possibly could, and it was really fun, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I know that that's something that a lot of people do. Maybe I should start doing that for myself. Who knows? Maybe then I'll be cool on Instagram.
It was really fun.
So you write these stories based off of your own experiences, like you were talking about I Know Better being something that happened to you and you came to the realization that you could do better. Talk to me about maybe I don't know what the word is or the emotional word is, but talk to me about what it can sort of be, maybe agonizing to publish almost like a diary type of thing for people to really get a better idea of what happened to you or know what's happening in your life. If you're I mean, with your Caroline Army, these people probably have gotten to know you pretty well. What's that sort of like to share your personal experiences with the world?
It's kind of scary because you open yourself up for a lot of judgment, but it's fun overall. And it's also a lot of people end up relating to it, which is really cool when people DM and they're like, oh my gosh, I needed this right now. This reminds me of my ex-boyfriend. The best part of it for sure.
That sounds like something that would be really positive for you to sort of get that, because I know that like as a music writer myself, there's a lot of times where I feel like maybe people are enjoying certain parts but don't understand the lyrics or whatever that you write down, and that can sort of be troubling. And so it must be a really good feeling for you to sort of be like, okay, these people are understanding and they're connecting it with their lives.
Yeah, that's my favorite. And it's my favorite to get feedback back on the song.
For sure. So I understand that you have a new book that's either coming out or has come out called Life Lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk me through that book a little bit?
That book's really fun, and it's really more of a kind of preteen book, which is really cool because I think that's a really good age where this book is hopefully useful. And it just goes through a lot of life lessons that I've learned in my life that hopefully can help other people. And just because people always ask like, oh, how do you stay so positive? How do you stay so positive? And that's kind of how.
Cool. Can you tell us one of your lessons? That's a good one, I feel like. Yeah, that one would be hard, especially when you're sort of living in the world of social media and online activity, especially because people tend to be the meanest when you have no shot of meeting people. There's, cyberbullying and all that stuff. How do you sort of zap the negativity away?
Well, I don't read all of it because some of it I just can't read. Like even on Wrecking Ball and Shallow, like I can't even get into those comments because there's like 100,000. It's impossible. And then I read most of the comments. I try to read most of them. But when people say some stuff that's mean, I don't really care that much.
I think that makes you better than me. I know that whenever anyone writes anything negative about stories that I write on Facebook, I tend to think about that for quite a while. So I've sort of made a rule for myself to just not read the comments.
Yeah, I think it was weird in the beginning because by the beginning it wasn't even necessarily hurt, but it was just like shock.
Sure. Yeah, well, because, you're surrounded by friends in real life who are like, oh, yeah, you're really great. Or I mean, it's like the American Idol thing, right? Where all these really horrible singers get on the show, and you're like, who in the world would tell them that they were good enough to be on the show? And then they're just awful, and the judges are like the first person to tell them that they're not good enough to go to Hollywood, and they're just shocked. It's just, it's weird to me how that works. I think that people just don't, enough people have lied to them that they're good, and I don't know. Anyway, I think I've just lost myself on a tangent.
Honesty does like work because you do need honesty.
Right, exactly.
I think people in my actual life are like really honest with me, so then that's maybe why it doesn't bother me as much too.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. Hey, I forgot to ask you this. I wrote it down and then I skipped over it. You had said that you've been working with Dan Book a couple of times after I Know Better. You have 12 songs that you've recorded with him. Can we expect an album anytime soon?
Hopefully, I'd love that. But I do have a song coming out early 2020, which is going to be a really fun one.
All right, fantastic. Caroline, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Not really.
All right, I think that means I did a pretty good job. Where can people find you on social media?
Instagram at Carolines_music, Facebook Caroline, and Spotify Caroline.
All right, fantastic. Caroline, thank you so much for joining the Open Mic Podcast. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.